Yo, how is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. I am your host, Chris, and today I am going to be recapping the Bears' 24-20 win on Thanksgiving Day over the Detroit Lions, and also talking about how the Bears will fare the rest of their season. Now, I'm not joined by any of my co-hosts today, so I'm going to be going single on this one, but I know it's been a while since I've recorded. I'm in the thick of finals in college and got a lot going on right now. But hopefully I'm back. The Bears are back to 500. You love to see it. And this was the best game of Mitchell Trubisky's career in my opinion, personally. I think he played pretty well against the Giants. I was at that game in Chicago. Two interceptions that weren't that great against the Giants, but otherwise he played a near flawless game. And I think this might be the first game of the season where I have more to say positively about the offense than I do the defense. Trubisky was 29 for 38, 338 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He only took 1 sack in this game, a QB rating of 75.2, and a passer rating of 118.1. Ridiculous game for Mitch, honestly. Coming up with some big throws at the end of the game, something that we've been looking for years from him. He led an incredible game-winning drive, and thanks to players such as David Montgomery and Anthony Miller, it was just awesome. I mean, I was sitting there glued to my TV like, what is happening? I had no idea if this was going to happen. And even though Trubisky has stepped up in the past against the Lions, he was making big throws on third down, and it was awesome to see. Let's head into the rushing stats. 16 carries for David Montgomery, a very nice, hefty day for him. 75 rushing yards, not bad, with a long rush of 14 yards. Anthony Miller was the head honcho as far as receivers go on the day. 9 receptions, 140 yards, with 15.6 receiving yards per average reception, with a long of 35 yards. We all know he was getting targeted throughout the game and finally came through in the fourth quarter. Allen Robinson also with a big game, 8 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. You can always expect Robinson to come through, and honestly, I think he should be a Pro Bowler. Javon Wims had his most targets in his career, 6 targets, 5 catches for 56 yards. Not a bad day for him either. And then Jesper Horsted, only 1 catch in the game, but it was impressive, and I love to see Horsted get some starting minutes. 1 catch for 18 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely was awesome to see. Heading on to the defense, Roquan Smith, 15 tackles, 2 sacks. Oh my goodness gracious. Those are the type of numbers that you would expect to see from someone like Brian Urlacher, like Dick Butkus, and it's really good to see Roquan playing well once again. And then Nick Kwiatkowski almost had a game-winning interception there at the end of the game. Eddie Jackson ended up having the game-winning interception, but Kwiatkowski almost had it. He's continuing to fill in properly for Danny Trevathan, and he had 8 tackles on the day, as well as a tackle for a loss. And Kyle Fuller, one thing I would like to say, Kyle Fuller had probably the game-winning tackle in the fourth quarter, saved a touchdown, forced the Lions to kick a field goal to go up 3 rather than 7, and it proved to be big. So here we are. The Bears are currently 6-6, and let's just quickly get the NFC divisional standings rolled up here. So we needed some help from some other teams, obviously, to get to a spot where we could somehow get into the playoffs. I know it's absurd thinking about that at this point, and we probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs, but there's still a chance. So if we look at the NFC playoff picture, you've currently got the Saints in the first place. Saints in first place. They're the only ones that have clinched. You got Seattle in second place, and you have San Francisco at the 5 seed. They're both 10-2. Seattle obviously has the edge because they beat San Francisco once. The Packers are yet to clinch the division at 9-3, but currently sitting at the 6th seed. We've got Minnesota at 8-4. Now this is a very interesting situation. So the Bears are currently in the 8th spot, 2 spots below the last wildcard spot at 6-6. You've got the Rams above them at 7-5. Let's quickly check who the Rams play the rest of the season. So the Rams' last 4 games consist of Seahawks, Cowboys, 49ers, and Cardinals. A pretty tough schedule. It would have really helped if we could have beaten the Rams, because that means if we tie, or if we have the same schedule as them, or if we have the same record as them, they would get into the playoffs because they have the win over us. But if the Rams could lose a couple games moving forward, that could really help us. If the Bears win this week and the Rams lose this week to the Seahawks, if the Bears can beat the Cowboys, who are currently in 4th place in the NFC at 6-6, the NFC East is not too great. Both the Rams and the Bears would be 7-6, so that's good. But basically what I'm here to talk about is, do I think the Bears can make the playoffs? I'm going to be completely real with you guys. I don't think it's realistic. I think anything 8-8 or better at this point would be very favorable to us. You saw how the defense was against David Blau. I mean, they weren't incredible. They weren't terrible. They stepped up when they needed to. Yeah, I just don't know. Looking at the rest of the schedule, this is really going to be the gauntlet for Mitchell Trubisky. I've written him off most of the year, and I have to give him praise where praise is due, and he played well against the Lions. Obviously, we know we have the Cowboys this week. I think that is, in fact, a winnable game. Then we go to Green Bay on Sunday, December 15th to play the Packers. We're back home against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and then we're going to go to Minnesota Week 17, and that could decide it. The Rams would need to lose a little bit. A win over the Cowboys could be huge for that wild card position. And the question for me is, I think you could beat the Cowboys. I think we will beat the Cowboys this week. Dallas is favored by 3 points, but I think we've got it in the cold. Similar to the Rams game last year, the Cowboys just got their heads chopped off last week by the Josh Allen and the Bills. And I'm not saying the Bears are going to come out and perform like that, but I do think the Bears can do it in the cold weather. I think it's going to be similar to the Rams game last year, where we can hold them pretty low, not score a ton of points, and win. I mean, I want to see Trubisky do this against a good team, and the Cowboys are going to be a good test for Trubisky. And then, obviously, after that, you've got the 9-3 Packers, you've got the 8-4 Chiefs, and then you've got the 8-4 Vikings to close out the year. And we know we can beat Minnesota. We've done it before. So the question for me on these next 4 games is, do you think you can go into Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers? I'm obviously not saying that the Cowboys game is already written off as a win. It's obviously not. But I do think that the Cowboys and Chiefs at home are both winnable games. So I think the game that looks like it's going to be the biggest struggle throughout these next 4 for me is probably going to be that one at Green Bay. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, Chris, how do you think the Bears are going to end up? What do you think their record's going to be? I think 8-8 or 9-7, but we have no reason not to root for them. Do I believe in them? I'm not too sure about that one, but am I going to root for them? Absolutely yes. And we'll see what can happen. As far as the Vikings schedule goes, they got the Lions next week. You would assume that's a win. They're at home. And then they play at the Los Angeles Chargers. You would assume that's also a win. And then they've got the Packers at home week 16. Say they lose that one, and the Bears win their next 3. We've got Bears at Vikings December 29th, and that would decide the division. Or that, not the division. That would decide the last wild card spot, assuming that the Rams lose and that the Cowboys and Eagles continue to struggle, because the Eagles also have the thing with the Eagles, the problem with them is their last 4 games are very easy. They did just lose to the Miami Dolphins, but they have the Redskins, Cowboys, and Giants twice. So I think the Eagles might actually win that division. You know, they just lost to the Dolphins. That wasn't good, but assume they beat the Giants, they beat the Redskins. That Week 16 game, Eagles versus Cowboys, could very well decide the fate of that division. And that being said, the NFC East could be won by Philadelphia, and then the Bears could have the wild card spot over Dallas if they're the same record, as well as the Vikings if we can go beat the Vikings. So this Dallas game is going to be really important. Do I think it's going to happen? I really don't know. I said it earlier, but I think anything finishing over 8-8 is a good finish. I think 8-8, 9-7, or 10-6. I'll take any of those. Just looking back now, those losses against the Eagles, the Rams, the Chargers, and the Raiders, those are coming back to bite us in the butt. But we'll see if the offense can do it against a legitimate team. I'm excited to see what happens, and we'll see how it plays out. So that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. If you want to follow my Bears fan page on Instagram, you can go follow it at @ShyBearsNews. You can also follow the podcast on social media, Twitter and Instagram @BearDown. Wherever you are listening right now, do me a favor and subscribe, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. We love all of our listeners on all 3 platforms and are hoping to continue to grow. Thank you guys very much for listening. Stay positive, Bears fans. We're back at 500. And we've got nothing to lose. We got to go out there and fight and see if we can do it against a real team. So all I'm going to say is bear down. I'm a bit weary, but I hope we can hold up against this good competition, because this team definitely has the talent to beat some good teams. That's pretty much it for me, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to bear down, Chicago. Peace.